Welcome to This Explainer. If you're a prospective international student, you are probably facing one of the most high-stakes matchups of your entire academic journey. Figuring out which is better between TOEFL versus IELTS for international studies is no joke. I mean, these aren't just exams, right? They're literally the gatekeepers to your dream university. Both tests assess your English proficiency, but they do it in completely different ways. So, let's dive into this and figure out which one is actually the right fit for you.
Here's our game plan today. We're going to start with the overarching dilemma, then go head-to-head through the listening, reading, writing, and speaking sections before wrapping it all up with a final verdict on test formats. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the International Study Dilemma. Look, let's just bust a myth right out of the gate. There is no universally easier test here. Both exams are checking the exact same 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. But they differ drastically in how they actually structure those tests. So the secret to choosing the better exam isn't about finding an easy way out. It's about matching your unique cognitive strengths to the right test structure. If you know how your own brain works best under pressure, you already have a massive advantage. Moving right along to Section 2, listening, multitasking versus note-taking.
Okay, so the IELTS basically forces you to juggle. You have to actively answer a mix of multiple choice and fill-in-the-gap questions while you are listening to the audio track. The TOEFL, completely different approach. You sit there, listen to the entire recording first, and only after it's totally over do you see and answer the questions. It's exclusively multiple choice, but because you're taking in a ton of information up front, it requires some incredibly strategic, heavy note-taking to remember all the details.
And listen, there is a massive hidden trap inside the IELTS listening section. Because you're answering in real time, if you zone out and miss a single keyword, you can easily lose the entire thread of the conversation. Plus, for those fill-in-the-gap questions, you have to catch the exact wording. And here's the real kicker. If you hear the right word, but you spell it wrong on your answer sheet, 0 points. No partial credit. Your spelling literally has to be flawless under pressure.
So, be honest with yourself for a second. Do you struggle to spell English words on the fly? Or does the very idea of listening and writing at the exact same time make you sweat? If multitasking or spelling are personal weaknesses, the multiple-choice-only format of the TOEFL might actually be the safer bet for your score. All right, round 3, Section 3, reading, speed versus complexity. On paper, no pun intended, these reading sections look surprisingly similar. Both tests are going to throw several passages at you, and both will test you using a bunch of different question types. But the absolutely crucial thing to know here is that you need a strategy. If you try to sit down and read these passages in full, granular detail, you are going to run out of time, period. You have to master skimming and scanning. And thankfully, both of the official examiner websites offer free practice tests so you can go test drive this immediately. Actually, someone who took both of these exams summed up the experience perfectly. They said, "When I took the TOEFL, I really had to hurry up. When I took the IELTS, I even had time left at the end." That quote brilliantly captures how subjective the pacing can feel. The general consensus is that TOEFL passages tend to be a bit longer and more academically complex, which makes the strict time limits feel way tighter than they do on the IELTS.
So here is the golden question for this section. Do you struggle with long, highly complex academic texts when a clock is ticking down? If reading speed is a major hurdle for you, the slightly less complex texts and, more manageable pacing of the IELTS reading section might feel a whole lot easier to tackle.
Let's pivot to Section 4, writing, factual versus argumentative. This is where the two exams really take completely different paths. Just look at how Task 1 compares. IELTS Task 1 is purely factual. You get handed a chart, a graph, maybe a map, and you just describe exactly what you see. It's totally objective. But TOEFL Task 1, that is deeply argumentative. You're not just describing a picture, you have to actively present and contrast arguments drawn from multiple sources. Let's actually break down what that TOEFL integrated writing task looks like in practice. Picture this. First, you read a short article. Then, you listen to a lecture on the same topic. Next, you have to mentally combine all of that information. And finally, you write an integrated essay laying out the arguments and counterarguments. I mean, that is a massive cognitive load. You are literally filtering 3 different skills, reading, listening, and writing, all at the exact same time. But hey, don't count the IELTS out as the easy option just yet. Sure, the TOEFL has all that structural complexity, but the IELTS is notoriously strict when it comes to the actual mechanics of how you write. To get a top score on IELTS writing, you absolutely must demonstrate a highly varied range of sentence structures and complex grammar. The grading on the sophistication of your prose is incredibly rigorous. So once again, what's your vibe? Do you prefer looking at data and describing it factually, making sure your grammar is just perfectly polished? Or do you thrive on debating different arguments, even if it means you have to juggle reading and listening tasks while you write? Moving on to Section 5, Speaking, Human versus Computer. I mean, it literally doesn't get more different than this. The IELTS is a traditional face-to-face interview with a real live human being. The topics are mostly about everyday life, your hobbies, TV shows, where you grew up, so it feels very conversational. The TOEFL, on the flip side, has you sit in a room and speak into a computer microphone. You get 4 highly timed tasks, and it feels way more structured, almost like you're giving a series of rapid-fire mini presentations to a machine. And that TOEFL speaking section, it's like a mental decathlon. Just like the writing section, it's highly integrated. You often have to read a short passage, listen to an audio clip, quickly filter the relevant info into your notes, and then, get this, you might only have 15 seconds to prepare your answer before that microphone turns on and you have to start talking. 15 seconds? It is incredibly intense, fast-paced processing. So, gut check time. This really just comes down to your social comfort and how you handle test anxiety. Do you prefer the natural rhythm, the nods, and the nonverbal cues of talking to a real person? Or does the anonymity of speaking into a blank screen feel a bit less intimidating to you, even with those strict timers ticking away in the corner? And finally, Section 6, Final Verdict and Test Formats. Let's talk logistics. Both of these tests offer a computer-based version at an official test center, which is great. But if you're a traditionalist who loves the tactile feel of a paper-based exam, the IELTS is going to be your only choice, because the TOEFL just doesn't offer a paper version anymore. Also, it's worth noting, both have introduced at-home options recently, the IELTS Indicator and the TOEFL Home Edition, which is fantastic for accessibility. But listen up, because this is absolutely crucial. None of this strategy matters if your dream university doesn't accept the specific version of the test you took. You must always verify which exact test and which format your target institution accepts. Sometimes a university will happily take the standard test center TOEFL, but they'll completely reject the home edition. So definitely double-check their admissions page before you book a single thing. We've broken down the multitasking traps, the reading speeds, the argumentative essays, and those stressful microphone countdowns. You've got the blueprint now, so I leave you with this final thought. Based on your own unique cognitive strengths, which is better between TOEFL versus IELTS for international studies for you? Take a second, evaluate your personal style, and go start your preparation today. You've got this.